Hello, guys. I'm Ethan Woodworth. I am back again with another episode of the Stoic Shopping Podcast. And today I have a great guest and a new friend that I've met, Alex Dilkovski. Introduce yourself, my man.
Quite the introduction. Thank you very much, Ethan. As you said, my name is Alex. Originally, I was born in Bulgaria. Moved to the States when I was 12 years old. Pretty big difference between life in Bulgaria and that in the States.
And a beautiful accent to go along with it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much.
It stands out. That's how I know Alex is in the room, because I know your accent.
I know, and here's the thing. Back in the day when I first moved, I was constantly trying to figure out how to get rid of my accent so I could sound like everyone else around me. But then it kind of just clicked for me, like I do stand out because of the way that I speak. So if there's a guy meeting with 40 people in one day, he's going to remember me as the guy with the accent because the other 39 sound the same. So it's a good thing, yeah.
It's a great thing.
I definitely embrace it nowadays, yeah.
From the real estate meeting recently, there was some guy talking and I was like, oh, that's Alex. And it turned out it was from a person from a neighboring country that wasn't Bulgaria. But what country was it?
He was from Serbia. Here is what's so interesting about accents. Slavic languages, Serbian, Bulgarian, Macedonian, it's very difficult for people that come from these countries to develop a native accent, to sound American. This guy, he had a bit of an accent, correct?
Yeah.
He was actually born in the States. I got to meet with him later on, and he told me that he was born and raised in Detroit, but because his family speaks Serbian at home, and he goes back home every summer, he developed an accent because of the contrast between Serbian and English. It's actually very interesting.
Wow, because they're so starkly contrasted, you still have an accent.
Yeah, Eastern European languages are extremely harsh. You roll your R's, and there's people that have been in the States all of their life, and they have an accent because they speak Russian or Serbian or Bulgarian at home. On the flip side of things, Scandinavian countries, Norway, Sweden, they speak almost perfect English. They sound like native speakers just because the languages mesh a little bit better.
And do you think with that comes a level of, we'll call it discrimination? Like, do you feel like people judge your language or judge how your accent and...
Oh, for sure, yeah. It's always interesting when I speak with someone that I haven't spoken to before and I ask them a question. For example, a professor. I'm like, hey, professor, could you please explain this in a little bit more detail? And they hear the accent and they assume that I don't speak English very well. They assume that I have a limited vocabulary. So they start simplifying the way that they speak. They're explaining it to me as if I'm 8 years old, and they're using all of these hand gestures as if I'm a monkey, So typically when I have a first conversation with someone new, I try to throw in a few more sophisticated terms just to kind of let them know, yeah, I do speak the language. You don't have to talk to me like I'm 7 years old.
What terms will you try to throw in?
Whatever, kind of just, get a little creative with the sentence structure. Throw in a few longer words that come to mind.
Juxtaposition.
Sure, that's a good one, yeah. Anything like that. Abomination, you name it. But yeah, the good thing about Eastern European accents is that even though they're pretty thick usually, they're easy to understand, and that's the most important thing. There's certain countries, India, for example, the Indian language, and, they don't speak Indian. I forget the actual name. Do you know?
Bengali.
I know there's multiple languages.
There's a lot of them.
Whatever, they don't blend very well with English, so it's actually kind of difficult to understand some Indian people. So that's the good thing about being from Eastern Europe. Yeah, you might have an accent, but at least people will understand you when you speak, and that's the most important thing at the end of the day, right?
Well, with this being said, in your home country, you said the language can come across as harsh. Do you think that the culture itself can also come across as harsh, or how would you describe Bulgarian culture?
Very interesting question. The first thing that I would say is that it really depends on the part of Bulgaria that you're in. You have Sofia, which is the capital. That's where I'm from. I think the population is around 2 million, if I'm not mistaken, so it's a fairly big city. Down south, if you go down south, you wouldn't even be able to tell that you're in Bulgaria. A lot of people don't even speak Bulgarian in that part of the country because of the Turkish influence. What would I say about the culture? How would I summarize it? Very social. That's one thing that I've noticed. People love going out for coffee, and a big difference is that when people go out to the clubs, you're not going out to meet the love of your life. That's not your goal. You're going out to have fun with your boys, with your friends, and that's different from the States. A lot of people in the States go out to the clubs to find a girlfriend or, find someone to spend the night with.
They're chasing.
That's not really the case in Bulgaria, at least from what I've seen. What else? I mean,
That's super present. That's very interesting.
yeah.
Because I feel like, yeah, that's the goal here is like you're always trying to attain something. But from what it sounds like, clubbing and partying is like it's here right now with the people you're with.
Because you have coffee shops, because it's social, because you're walking around the city and you're not driving your car everywhere. So you have opportunities to meet new people throughout the day. Ethan, how many new people do we meet every day here in college? Not that many. You know, you have...
I try. I try.
You're one of the more social guys that I know, so that does make sense. But for the most part, you have class,
Yeah.
these big lectures, you're not really talking to anyone.
Not new, yeah.
Yeah, if you go to the gym or to the library, you don't really want to disturb people and just... It's kind of weird if someone's doing homework and you just go up, hey, man, what's your name? They'll be like, what is this guy doing? So yeah, I would say it's more social. Also, you don't really have suburbs in Bulgaria.
Okay.
So the city is 2 million population, and everyone lives inside the city. I lived in the city. They have these big Soviet blocks, massive gray blocks, and they look disgusting from the outside.
That's ugly buildings.
Yeah, they're horrible, horrendous. But on the inside, it's actually pretty nice. You know, newly renovated apartments. The quality of life is fairly high as well. A lot of people don't know that Bulgarian is a European Union nation. So it's fairly nice. It's not bad. It's not like I'm living out there with the sheep and with the horses and, you know, having to drink water from the local river. That's not really how it is.
I mean, when you told me you're from Bulgaria, that's what I originally assumed.
I'm sure.
My world knowledge is very limited, so...
No, and it's funny because when I told my Bulgarian relatives that I was going to school in Indiana, they thought the same thing. They're like, oh my goodness, are you going to be a farmer? What are you doing? So it's the same thing, you know, really translates when you have places like Indiana and Bulgaria that are not global household names like New York City or Chicago or London, then people don't really typically, they don't know what those places bring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then what did your life look like a typical, you know, Alex day in Bulgaria? You know, what was it like?
Alex day, yeah, sure. So both of my parents had pretty good jobs in business. So we were fairly well off. As I mentioned, I lived in the capital. And what's interesting is that I would wake up at 6:37, you know, typical waking time. And from there on, for the next 8-10 hours, I was on my own. I would leave the apartment. I would take the public bus, walk to school. During school, there was little to no supervision. You can leave at any time, leave campus, go buy lunch, go buy coffee. I mean, you could go buy cigarettes when you're 12 if you wanted to. I didn't.
Wow. I know you did.
No, I didn't. No shot. But yeah, so no supervision. You're doing whatever you wish. The school day is actually interesting as well. So in Bulgaria, school goes from 7 to 1 p.m. for one semester, and then from 2 p.m. until like 6:30 p.m. the second semester, or 7 p.m. Because the school is K through 12, most schools are. And because you don't want to be mixing second graders with 12th graders, you have these two different
blocks.
Blocks, exactly. So first semester, you're going to have one of the blocks, the early one, for example, and then the second semester, it flips, and you have the later block.
Whoa.
So yeah, so I would show up to school at 7:30 a.m. Again, I'm taking the public bus. You don't have a school bus picking you up. Go to school, full freedom, do whatever you wish. I'll leave school at 1 p.m., take a different public bus, go to a different part of the city, have some English lessons, private lessons, whatever. From there on, I'll take a different public bus, go to a different part of the city, go to soccer practice. And from there on, my dad would typically pick me up around 6:30 p.m.
This is the city life.
This is the city life, and I'm 12 years old. And then I moved over to the States, and you have the school bus picking you up, and you bring your little packed lunch, and the teachers are looking over your shoulder, making sure that you don't say a bad word. I mean, God forbid you curse. No more recess. Haha, they're going to take away the basketballs. That was probably the biggest culture shock
that is so real. Taking away the basketballs for cussing or, you know, saying something to somebody. That is real.
Dude, the first time that I said a curse word in English and a teacher heard me, I was petrified. I thought I was finished. I thought they were going to fly me back over to Bulgaria because they make a big deal out of it. You know, they really do make a big deal out of treating everyone nicely. Don't say any bad words. Be kind to everyone. Yeah.
But I feel like that's almost backwards. Like, yeah, these teachers are saying that here in America, but it's almost like Bulgaria sounds like the more social friendly culture when you really get down to
Because
it.
it's not forced. It's
Mm.
not forced. In the US, they really force you to be nice to everyone. In Bulgaria, you kind of just figure it out. If no one's talking to you, then it's like, am I weird? What am I doing? And you kind of have to make these changes. Make sure that you can find friends and have fun and be a part of this social system. My teachers in Bulgaria, this is a crazy story. I had this history class and I was running late. Well, no, actually, I wasn't running late, but I didn't want to go to class on time. Let's say the class started at 9 a.m. It was 9:05, and I'm in front of the classroom talking to a couple of friends. And the teacher, she was a typical Russia-loving teacher, like a very old-school communist Soviet lover. And she knew that I was going to move to the States. And she despised the United States. So she had a little grudge against me. So she sees me talking to my buddies. I'm 5 minutes late. She comes outside, grabs me by my ear, and pulls me inside the class by my ear. Imagine if a teacher did it in the US. I mean, she might do a few years in jail.
So she had a Russian grip on that thing.
Oh my god, she was twisting it as well. She put a twist on it. Ethan, it hurt, dude.
That's wild.
I had a different teacher. She was a mathematics teacher. Thankfully, I was pretty good in math because she would look over your shoulder when you're solving the problems. And if you made a mistake, she would slap you, give you like a little slap on the back of the neck. And I had this kid, he wasn't very good with math. Dude, he was getting beat up on the regular. That teacher was just relentless. It's a crazy life out there, man.
It's a lot different than here.
Yeah, and then during parent-teacher conferences, a bunch of parents came and they're like, why are you beating up our children? And it was a whole big thing. But yeah, that doesn't really happen in the States, does it?
No. That's so much different. But I feel like what you're talking about in these examples you're giving, it's definitely shaped you into the person you are today.
100%. 100%, yeah.
I wanted to talk about the fire story.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a pretty epic story, and I've heard bits and pieces a few times, but I want to kind of rewind the clock and get the full entire details.
Absolutely.
So,
okay. Here's the thing.
hear it.
I will not be able to go into every single small detail because there's legal action going on, so I have to be selective with my language here, but I'll tell you the whole story.
Okay.
We have to go back to freshman year of college. I met my core group of friends, it's a total of 5 of us, during welcome week. And we all lived pretty close. I was in Walnut Grove, they were in McNutt, so that's 2 minutes away. So typically, we would all be done with our classes around 6:30, 7 p.m. And we would all, get together and go out to the dining hall, get food, whatever. One day we just didn't have any homework. And we're like, boys, what should we do? And one of us proposed, let's play poker. Poker's a lot of fun.
Poker is a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. And I was a complete beginner. 2 of my friends actually didn't even know the rules or how the game worked.
That's the best. That's free money.
Yeah, well, I was a beginner myself. We were all beginners. And we started playing poker. And, first we were playing once a week, then twice a week, then 3 times a week. Then before you know it, we're playing 5 times a week. And the buy-ins also skyrocketed as well. The first game we played was just $5 buy-in, whatever.
Yep, it's a curve.
Yeah, and then 10, 15, 20, 25. And if we're playing 4 times a week, and every time it's $25.
That's steep.
Dude, you go on a bad streak, and before you know it, you're down $150, or it's like, what happened to my money?
Yeah.
On the flip side of things, if you're winning, if you win 3 or 4 times in a row, that's
payday,
free
baby.
drinks. Anyway, we became these poker addicts. I wouldn't say addicts, because we stayed at a $25 buy-in for a while, but we played a lot. And sophomore year, it got even worse because now 4 of us lived in the same house.
Oh, no. Oh.
Here's the thing. We didn't play as often sophomore year. But when we played for 6 hours at a time. We would start playing at 9 p.m., wrap up at 4:30 in the morning. So even though you're playing for $25, you're buying back in multiple times. So sophomore year, it was extreme. And eventually we started betting on ping pong, FIFA, NBA 2K. I mean, hell, if
NBA 2K.
dude, if it said there's a 50% chance of rain in the next hour, you would find someone to, bet on that with you. Oh, I'll take rain. No, it's not gonna rain, and you just be on the balcony for 1 hour waiting to see if it's gonna rain.
You got a problem, man.
Yeah, no. So that's when we decided that for spring break we wanted to go to a casino, a real casino.
I see.
Problem is that we weren't 21 at the time, so we started doing the research. Where is the closest casino that we can go to that is 18 or 19 plus? Montreal, Canada. It's actually one of the biggest casinos in North America. And Montreal is also a lovely city. It's actually very Europe-like in terms of the architecture.
Is Montreal east of Toronto?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I think I have an idea where it's at.
Yeah. It's kind of like if you have New York over here and Montreal somewhere over here.
Okay. Yep.
Anyway, we go to Montreal, and you have multiple districts in Montreal. You have the old district, which is the most attractive destination for tourists like us, because again, it's very Europe-like. You have these old buildings. It kind of just looks like it's 200 years ago. It's pretty cool. Coffee shops everywhere. It's sick. Then you have the financial district. Skyscrapers, looks like a typical American city. So we got an Airbnb in the old district. The building itself was made out of stone and bricks, but the interior was entirely made out of wood. Everything was wooden. The walls, the stairs, everything was just wood. And we were staying on the second floor. Below us was a commercial space. So the first floor was actually fairly tall. I would say, what would you estimate for a commercial space? How tall is a typical commercial space?
12 to 14 feet.
Sure. Let's call it 12 to 14 feet. So we're having a great time in Canada. We did go to the casino. Didn't go very well for me. One of my friends, though, he hit big.
Were you guys playing blackjack, poker?
I was playing poker with one of my friends, and then my two other friends that were with us, they played roulette and blackjack.
All right.
And my friend, the one that won a lot of money, he actually hit a specific number in roulette.
Oh, shit.
I don't know what the exact odds are.
How much? 1 in 20 something or 1 in 30 something?
He got paid out a good amount.
Wow.
Oh, now I have to kind of go back a little bit, Ethan. Do you believe in God?
I would consider myself agnostic, but I like to believe in God, yeah.
Okay, so there were a bunch of crazy signs leading up to the strip, and I'm gonna sound like a crazy person, but I have to tell you the context. First thing, when we were driving to Canada, one of my friends said that he has a car back home in Lafayette that we can take to drive to Canada. And being responsible adults, we decided to have the car get checked up. Just
all right, oil change,
take
tires.
To the service. Yeah, just make sure everything's looking good.
Smart.
Everything looked fine. Everything checked out. Perfect. Good to go. We started driving at around midnight, and I had the first shift. And I'm driving for about an hour, and I'm on this boulevard. Not quite a highway, but it's still like 55 mile per hour speed limit, going fairly fast. And suddenly I tell my friends, the gas isn't working, like this car is braking. And they all kind of laughed it off. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, no, like I'm pressing down the gas and the car is not accelerating. Something is wrong. So I pull over to the side, some weird side street. All of the houses around us look like some hippie, twisted people type of house. I don't know how to explain it. It was just a bunch of like weird things.
Were they colorful?
They were colorful. It looked like Halloween, but it was in March, which is confusing, right? So a bunch of strange people, and
it's not a good sign.
And it's 1 a.m. At that point. I don't want to go and knock on their door and say my car broke down.
Yeah, you don't want to get, put Twister with all these people.
Yeah, those were strange cats, I can assure you. Never got to meet them, but if I had to put money on it, I guarantee you they... Anyway, one of my friends, the guy with a dealership, his dad owns a dealership.
Okay, yeah.
So we give him a call. We wake the guy up at 1 a.m. and we're like, the car broke down. Could you help us, please? He picked us up, and then because he has a dealership, we got the whole situation figured out, got a different car.
Nice, yeah.
But that was the first sign. A car that just got checked up and everything checked out broke down an hour into the trip. But we keep
Middle
going.
of the night. Middle of the night.
Middle of the night. But we keep going. We have to go to the casino. We have to get there. We're twitching. Can't wait to gamble, you know?
It's been too many days.
It's been too many days. So we get to Canada. Everything's going fine. And the night of the fire took place at about 5:30 a.m., I would say. But let's backtrack to the night before. It was probably 10 p.m. And three of us, decided to go out to the bars. And one of my friends was just feeling kind of tired, decided to stay back and chill. Fair enough. So we go to this bar. We just pick up the most random bar there is, just the first one that we walked by. And it was a Vietnamese bar.
Ooh.
In Vietnamese bars, they have smoke. So the bar was extremely smoky. You walk inside and there's just smoke everywhere. And my friend says, and I still remember that, my friend says, I don't like the smoke. Let's find a different bar. What are the odds that we pick a bar at random and it has smoke inside of it the night before the fire when there's a lot of smoke around us and stuff, right? It's
That's ominous,
it's like
man.
foreshadowing in a movie. It's crazy.
Wow. That's
Going
straight
back
from a movie.
Going back a little bit before that, before we even left for spring break, I had this fire alarm in my apartment, in my bedroom, that just kept going off damn near every single night. It would just start beeping every single night for a while. And I always complained to my friends, I'm like, this damn fire alarm keeps going off. It's so annoying. Well, in the fire, Ethan, the reason why the whole thing happened is because they didn't have adequate fire alarms in the building. It's just all of these bits of foreshadowing, and it's very strange.
It adds up a bit too perfectly.
It's weird. It's one of those things where if I tell you, oh, look for red houses, you're going to see a ton of them. But if you're not looking for the red houses, you're not going to see any. So a part of it is just me reflecting back to what happened before the fires, and that's definitely part of it. But it is strange, you know, the car and the smoky bar and the fire
Vietnamese
alarm.
bar, that's whack.
What are the odds? How many bars have you walked in that are smoky?
Not many, ever.
That's the only time.
Well, I haven't walked in very many bars, period.
Fair enough.
I shouldn't be, at least.
Anyway, now the actual story. As I said, it's 5:30 a.m. and I wake up to this distant noise. Couldn't quite tell what it is. Typically, fire alarms, I'm sure you've had fire drills, obnoxiously loud.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, your ears are hurting. You're just rushing to get out of this building, so you stop listening to them. That wasn't the case. That was a very faint noise. And I actually thought it was the neighbor's alarm clock, that someone's just getting up to go to work. And my nose was extremely congested at the time, so I couldn't smell the smoke. And my friend, it's actually the guy that stayed back. And by the way, we didn't end up drinking that night after the Vietnamese bar. We were just finished. We're like, nah, it's just not meant to be. It's only three of us. Let's just go back and get some.
All right, so you at least took the sign, like, the night wasn't happening.
Yeah. On the flip side of things, had we gone out and gotten pretty drunk, could have been a whole different story. Anyway, we go back to the place, get some rest. Anyway, I wake up, and my friend, the guy that stayed back, he starts pounding on my door. Poof, poof, poof. We have to get out. We have to get out. And I could hear the urgency in his voice.
So he's in a separate room.
He's in a separate room, yeah.
Okay.
Two guys were in a bedroom that had two beds. Or they were in the same bedroom that had two beds, yeah. And then me and my other friend had our own bedroom.
Got it.
It was in the Airbnb. So he's pounding on my door. We have to get out. And I'm like, what is going on? I open the door and I see this thin layer of smoke. It wasn't bad at all. So at this point, I'm still drastically underestimating the severity of the situation. I'm still thinking, okay.
Yeah, you have no evidence.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, there might be a little bit of smoke coming from somewhere, but we're on the second floor. We'll be out of this building in 30 seconds. And the way that our unit was set up is that you had two different doors leading into the hallway. But the same hallway. Just one, you had a door that came from the main living room, and then you had a door from the bathroom. It was actually a very weird setup.
Okay.
You had a door in the bathroom that led into the main hallway. We opened the first door, the one that's close to the living room. And at that point, still, I'm not panicking. Everything's good. We open the door. Flames everywhere. Right in front of us. The entire hallway is up in flames.
Wow.
My friend that opened the door actually got burned. That's how close the fire was. And that's when all of the smoke just entered into the unit. So at that point, you can't even see what's in front of you. You can't even see your hands in front of your face. And it's like, okay, this is for real. Now I'm panicking a little bit. We quickly ran to the bathroom to try the second door to see if maybe that part of the hallway isn't on fire yet. If it hadn't made its way down. Same thing. We open the door, flames everywhere.
Oh my goodness.
From there on, we ran to the living room because that's where the windows
So
were.
this is in the hallway. The fire's already in the hallway.
He's in the yeah. We opened the door
Okay.
to let in the hallway.
Yeah.
And the fire was right there. I told you the guy got burned.
It just
crazy.
hasn't got to your room yet.
Hasn't gotten to our unit
Got it.
yet. Our unit's still not on fire, but it's getting hot. It's again the smoke is out there,
Mm-hmm.
and that is when we ran to the living room because that's where all the windows were. I saw a hoodie. Thankfully, I saw this hoodie that was on one of the chairs. I grabbed it, wrapped it around my hand, started smacking the window. Conor McGregor-esque hooks. Boom, boom, boom. Here's an interesting side story. It's not even a side story, it's just one of my thoughts. The first time I punched the window, I expected it would just shatter everywhere.
Totally.
I punched it and nothing happened.
You weren't committed.
Didn't break. Dude, it was a pretty hard punch and it didn't break. And that's when for a split second, that was the scariest moment, when the window didn't break. So the second punch,
Primal.
I made it even more powerful, and that's when it started cracking a little bit, and then a few more punches and it broke. But that was scary because if those windows didn't break, oh man, we're cooked. We're cooked.
Literally.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Anyway, so we break
What type of windows are these? Like cheap? Are they just kind of like? Because I'm imagining they're not a very industrial window. If they
There were
broke.
it was 2 layers of glass. That's what it was. It was 2 layers of glass. They were
Okay.
fairly thin. They weren't too difficult to break. But it does take a few smacks.
Yeah.
One smack's not gonna do it. In hindsight, we probably should have gotten a chair and just thrown it, because my friends that didn't have a hoodie to rub their hand with, they got some pretty nasty cuts on their hands from breaking the glass.
Okay.
But it's difficult, it's difficult to think straight
Yeah,
when you're
no,
put in a situation
completely.
like that. So
It's a miracle you even thought of the hoodie around your arm.
that actually, I think I was taught that in Bulgaria. Back when I was very young in Bulgaria, I think they taught us how to, maneuver your way out of a fire. So
Oh yeah, just wrap the hoodie on your arm.
shout out to the Bulgarian education system. Maybe it's not failing after all.
I think shout out to your parents.
Oh, of course, yeah, that as well. 100%, every single day.
They taught you to get your ass out of there.
Well, what else are you gonna do? You're gonna just stay there?
No, yeah, go on. Sorry to interrupt.
Anyway, we break the windows, and there was a curb. That was probably about, what would you estimate this is?
Right there?
Roughly, yeah.
Say 10 inches.
Okay, call it 10, 12 inches, whatever. So it was definitely wide enough for you to stand on, but you had to kind of lean back against the wall, against the building.
Oh, that's terrifying.
So we're up on this curb, smoke is everywhere. You could see the flames on I think it was the floor above us. No, it was smoke. There was just a bunch of smoke coming from every window around
Yeah.
us. The smoke was so thick and congested that windows started breaking just because of the smoke.
Wow.
The smoke was just crazy. And at that point, the firefighters still hadn't arrived. So we're sitting up on this curb.
Ledge.
Yeah. We were sitting up on this ledge, and right below us was a street with a sidewalk. Straight concrete. Just concrete. There's not a sliver of grass around you. So I was thinking there's no way that I jump. If I jump, I could either die or be paralyzed for the rest of my life. So I wasn't jumping. 2 of my friends did end up jumping.
How long were they on the ledge before they decided to jump?
Not too long. I would say I mean, it's very difficult to estimate how much time actually went by because when you're in a situation of this, it's difficult to. I would say a couple of minutes, maybe, but it did get a little scary when time is ticking by. There's more and more smoke, and you're not seeing the firefighters. It's like, geez, are you guys getting here? What's going on?
Yeah.
So two of my friends jumped. Bro, there was a car parked right under our window. They couldn't see the car because of the smoke, but they landed on top of the car. So they didn't suffer any serious injuries. I mean, thank God.
It sort of broke the fall.
Yeah, talk about probability.
Wow.
They just jumped, didn't know what was going to happen, landed on top of the car. So yeah, broke down the fall.
An extra, 6 feet or so, 5 feet.
Whatever, yeah. I mean, anything helps, right?
Wow.
The scary part is that the smoke was so thick that I had no idea what happened to them. I just see them jump and it's like, I hope they're okay.
So you couldn't even see the bottom of where you were jumping?
No, not at all.
Wow. So it looked like you were just jumping into an abyss.
Not quite. You could see off in the distance, kind of like in front of you, but you couldn't see straight below you.
Okay, got it.
So you can estimate how high up it is.
And how high do you think it was?
I would approximate 20, 25 feet.
Whoa.
I mean, fairly high up.
Yeah, 2 stories, yeah.
And me and my other friend were sitting up on the ledge. I'm covering up my face with my shirt to make sure that I'm not inhaling all of the smoke. And the reason why my friends jumped is because they were afraid of inhaling too much CO2. Too much CO2 because that could make you pass out. And if you pass out, you're just falling face forward onto concrete.
That's fatal.
Probably not going to make it, yeah. So that was the one thing that I was most concerned about.
I didn't even consider that. Like I'm literally sitting here with all information, able to process, and I didn't even think of that.
That's the scariest thing. You don't know when you're going to pass out from too much smoke. And if you pass out again on this little ledge, you're finished. Initially, I was afraid of the building just collapsing. Thankfully, my friend was sharp. He was like, no, this is made out of brick. It's going to last a while. We're good. The building's not going to collapse. So that kind of calmed me down a little bit as well. Eventually, the firefighters came. They rescued us with ladders. You know what's funny, Ethan? I was standing there, and this is Montreal. It's pretty cold. I only had my underwear on and a t-shirt. So I'm standing on the ledge, freezing I wasn't even freezing. I was actually pretty hot because of the fire. But then when I walked down the ladder, dude, it was so cold. I was freezing cold. But yeah, I'm just wearing underwear. It's like 30 degrees. The building behind me is on fire. All of my belongings are in there. My phone, my wallet. It's 5:30 a.m.
Oh my God.
And a bunch of local workers. I think there was some sort of a factory that was pretty close nearby. All of these workers, they came outside. One of them gave me a jacket and said, come to our office so you can warm up a little bit. I asked one of them for a phone so I could call my mother and, tell her what happened. So I called my mom at 6 a.m. and I'm like, Mom, there was this fire. I'm okay though. And 20 or 30 minutes later, they transported me to the hospital. And me and my friend that stayed up on the ledge, we were actually in the same ambulance. But I had no idea what was going on with my other two friends who jumped on top of the car.
So you scared shitless.
I had no idea what's going on with them. And then they took us to the hospital, ran a bunch of different tests to check if I had inhaled too much CO2. And they told me, you're all good. Take a shower and you're good to go. Good to go where? What are you guys talking about? I'm in a foreign country. I don't have my passport. I don't have any money because my wallet burned. I don't have a phone. They gave me some clothes from the local, homeless shelter. So I'm dressed like a homeless person. It's like, where do you want me to go? And they're like, oh yeah, that's right. Fair enough. So they connected me with the local Red Cross organization, and the Canadian Red Cross gave me 450 Canadian dollars, something like that, which sounds like a lot of money. But in hindsight, no, it wasn't that much at all.
That's jack shit.
Yeah, so they put me in a hotel for one night, and they dropped me off at the hotel. It was probably 3 p.m. at that time. Dude, I gotta tell you, so I'm in the hospital, fully checked out already. They told me I'm ready to leave, and they told me that this taxi driver is gonna drive me to the Canadian Red Cross, which is actually a bus. I thought it was a physical location.
No way.
It was a bus. It was a bus that was parked right outside of where the fire took place. And I'm waiting for this taxi driver, and maybe an hour and 20 minutes went by. This guy's not showing up. And eventually he shows up, and he drives me, and the bus is no longer there. And he tells me, okay, here's the location, get out. Get out.
There's no bus.
There's no bus. What do you want me to do? And he spoke a little bit of English because they do speak French in Montreal as well. But I was able to tell him, like, we need to find the bus. That's what I say. We have to find the bus. So he went and talked to some firefighters or some policemen that were in the area, kind of just dealing with a fire. Took them a while to extinguish the fire, dude. It was like 6 or 7 hours.
Oh,
to
my
put it out.
goodness.
No, it was a big building. Eventually, the bus came back, picked me up, dropped me off at the hotel, and that's 3 p.m. Now I have a few hours before it gets dark to buy better clothes because I was gonna freeze in those homeless shelter clothes. They gave me some cheap dress shirt, sort of hybrid. It was a weird, dude. It was weird. I hated it. They gave me some small ass shoes that didn't even fit me, dude. It's horrible. You ever seen Hobbit? You ever seen The Hobbit?
Oh yeah,
I was
man.
dressed like one of them, bro. I swear, it was horrible. Anyway, I started walking down the street, dressed like a homeless person, and I'm asking everyone, "Where's the nearest Best Buy?" And they're looking at me all weird, and like, just pull out of your phone.
I don't got a phone.
Old school, roofing my way through. Which way? And dude, I wish I had my phone on me so I could calculate how many steps I walked that day. 'Cause it must have been a decent amount. Anyway, I found an Adidas outlet store, and I bought this black Adidas tracksuit, like a typical Bulgarian, proud Bulgarian. And there you go. It was heavily discounted. So I got this black Adidas tracksuit, and now I'm feeling like the man. Besides the shoes, I still had the shoes on. Couldn't buy new sneakers, but it's okay. But I'm walking down, and I go to the nearest. It wasn't a Best Buy. It was a Canadian version of Verizon, like a mobile carrier sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I walk in, and I tell them the whole story. The fire and this and that. And I'm like, I have $220.
What can I buy?
What can I buy that can make phone calls to the US? So they tell me that they have this cell phone that is only $200, but it doesn't have a carrier. So I could only make phone calls when I'm connected to the Wi-Fi using WhatsApp or one of those apps. So I said, what else am I going to do?
Yeah.
So I buy this phone, I go back to the hotel, and I had to, it was a tricky setup. I had to talk to some guy and borrow his phone. I called my parents and told them to download WhatsApp. And then I made a WhatsApp and I told them the username. Eventually we got it connected. So I could only call them when I had Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Through WhatsApp. That was the setup. I called him. At that point, it's pretty late on, 7 p.m., 8 p.m. First day of March Madness as well. That's the day when Purdue lost to the 16th seed.
Fun fact.
I missed the game.
But it was a great game. Fun fact.
Anyway, I finally can communicate with my parents. And they told me that one of my friends' uncles and aunts and his mom were driving up to Canada from Indiana. So the following morning, they picked me up from the hotel, took me to the American Embassy in Canada. I got an emergency passport, and my parents bought me a plane ticket, and I flew back to Chicago the next day. That's pretty much it.
What was going on with your friends throughout this entire time?
So when I finally got to talk with my parents over WhatsApp, they assured me that everyone is alive. Because all of the parents started talking between themselves. They all made phone calls to the different hospitals, figured everything out. They were fine. They stayed in the hospital longer than I did. One of them had to get a surgery on his arm because of the cuts.
The glass.
The glass, yeah. pretty severe, but
Nothing from the jump.
no, the two guys that jumped, they did suffer some ankle fractures, I think, and things of that nature. But thankfully, everyone is okay. I
Walking.
think, I think we're all in a good place now. I mean, about as good as we could be. There's people that didn't even make it out, so that just puts it into contrast on how lucky we actually are.
So was your area that burned down, was that like the area where I don't want to misquote this,
Yeah.
6 or 7 people ended up dying, correct?
I'm not sure. I mean, I can't really talk about how the fire started or anything because, again, there is a whole case going on. I'm not too informed on how it all started, which area exactly.
Yeah.
But from what I do know, from what's public already and Canadian reports, is that, what was it? I think it was 24 people in the building at the time of the fire, and I think it was 11 that did not make it out. I believe that's what's been reported.
Oh my goodness.
Scary situation.
That's terrible.
Well, there were some good things that came out of it as well. I mean, I got to tell you, when people say wake up every day and thank God and recognize that each new day is a blessing, it really is.
Yeah, so it's changed your belief system in the way that you're just kind of more thankful.
Just more grateful all around. Yeah. For what I have. I mean, again, nothing is promised. You never know when something could happen to you or one of your relatives. So just be grateful for every day. Yeah, that's one of the main things that I took away from this whole experience.
Does it change your perspective on Canadian services? Because what strikes me that I'm remembering is the firemen and the emergency services seemed like they were late.
I wouldn't say they were late. No, I actually think they responded very promptly, very quickly. It might have seemed like they were late because time moves in slow motion when you're up there on that ledge. But no, I actually don't have anything bad. Matter of fact, I have to thank the firefighters for saving my life, and then the Canadian Red Cross as well for, putting me in a hotel, making sure to have some money, a little bit more money.
$300.
That could have been a little bit more, but nonetheless, no, people were actually very helpful throughout the whole process. So, yeah, the Canadian services, shout out to the Canadian services, man. Yeah, they did a good job.
They deserve their respects.
The one thing that pissed me off is that when I was getting an emergency passport, I had to pay some amount, say $200.
See, no, because it's not like you effed up and lost it.
No,
it burned in a
it's not
fire.
about the money. If it's an emergency passport, there has been an emergency. How do you expect me to have $200 in cash ready to give you, right? So that's one thing that
the
doesn't
premise
make
is
a lot
twisted.
of sense. If the Canadian or any embassy is listening, make emergency passports free or defer the fee until a later date, because people, why would someone get an emergency passport? Well, someone stole my wallet. I don't have any money, or you know what I'm saying, like.
So they made you pay on the spot.
They made me pay on the spot.
Wow.
And I feel like a lot of people who are in need of an emergency passport probably don't have $240, whatever it was, in cash to pay that. So they need to fix that.
I feel like that's some law that could be easily enacted.
Yeah.
We need to get some lobbying going.
No, for sure. Literally just take my address, take my name, bill me in a month.
Yeah.
Or in 2 weeks, whatever.
No interest.
No interest.
For any viewers or listeners that want to search this, are you allowed to disclose the name of the property?
You can look up Old Montreal Fire, and there should be a bunch of articles that are going to pop up. And again, it took place last spring break, so
a year from now.
Yeah, middle of March last year.
Honestly, today's March 20th.
I think it was a little bit earlier.
Okay.
It's not quite a 1 year anniversary.
I was going to say, if we're talking about this like on the 1 year date, that's some twisted shit.
That would be insane, yeah. But no, if you look it up, you're going to see pictures of the building when it was on fire. And dude, it's a scary sight. That thing is up in flames.
I have my computer here. I'm going to pull it up.
Yeah. Look up Old Montreal Fire and it should pop up.
All right, I want to see.
There's actually a Wikipedia article on it as well, I believe. Then one of those people was actually an 18-year-old girl that made multiple phone calls to 911. So she very well could be the one that saved my life by making that phone call and reporting the fire. So, yeah.
That gives me chills. Shit. Wow.
Crazy.
Thanks for sharing.
No, absolutely, yeah.
I think it's a powerful story, and it definitely gives me more respect and gratefulness for firefighters and first responders.
Absolutely.
Noble job.
100%. As noble as it gets.
There's actually a fire station right over here, right next to me.
Yeah.
Oh.
Good stuff.
Maybe you someday. Does it inspire you? Do you need to...
No, I would probably like to stay away from fires for a little bit.
I bet. Shit.
Yeah, man. It's okay. I'll take a step back. But hey, if I do make money investing in real estate, I'll donate a hefty amount to the first responders.
Especially
Absolutely.
the Montreal first responders.
Yeah.
Well, dude, do you have any last closing thoughts? And
No, really, just thank you for having me here.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun. You're a pretty good host. You asked a lot of interesting questions. We've been all over the place, dude. I better see a crazy title to this podcast. Aliens, fire,
yeah,
Bulgaria. We talked about everything. Starting up your own business. There was a motivational aspect as well. Great job, Ethan. We've very nice.
Thank you, Alex, and you're a great friend, and you're one of the most interesting people I know.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think it shows you're just a great man, great friend, and you're good for the earth.
I appreciate it. It's a big statement. Thank you.
Keep being you, Alex, and thanks for coming on.
All right. Thank you, Ethan.
Yeah, thank you, guys. This is the Stoic Sapling Podcast, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.